The sunset flow is the flow that literally gets the worst engagement out of every single one of your automations and absolutely destroys your deliverability. But I've come up with a way that actually makes this automation a flow that turns those negative engagements into really, really positive ones. And I'm going to run you through that in this video. Now, really quickly, what you're looking at is a Miro board. I create these boards for all of my clients. Essentially what this does is it outlines the automation that I recommend you build. Now, you actually have a link to this automation in the description of this video. Click the link. It's all yours. Open it up. We can actually walk through this together on this video and you can hear my voice. Let's check it out. Really quick run through here. Left-hand side, what these mean. This represents the trigger for the email. This represents the email. This represents a conditional or trigger split, and this represents an updating of the profile property. So, how do I structure the sunset flow? Straight off the bat, it's triggered off of somebody joining a segment. Now, please note, people can only enter a flow off of a segment trigger, joining a segment trigger once. So if they join this segment, it's only going to trigger this automation once. It's not going to happen multiple times. So for this flow, it's somebody joining a segment of people that we define as unengaged. Typically, I define unengaged people as follows. When somebody has or has not opened an email, has or has not opened an email at least once in the last 120 days, meaning they have not opened an email in the last 120 days, or they have not clicked an email in the last 120 days, and they have received at least 10 emails overall time. This prevents people who have just subscribed from entering into your unengaged segment, right? Because if they've just subscribed to your email marketing, they will automatically join this segment because the trigger is somebody not opening an email 120 days in the last 120 days. But the reality is they haven't opened or received any emails to actually open in the first place, so obviously they're going to go into that segment. So this just prevents that from happening. And they have not placed an order in the last 120 days or placed orders 0 times in the last 120 days. And they can receive email marketing because they are subscribed. Now, 120 days is how I define unengaged. Feel free to play around with that. Some of you might find that too generous. Some of you guys might find that too aggressive. You're like, hey, I think it should be 180 days. Totally up to you. Personally, I think 120 days is a nice sweet spot. You can't even play around with 90 days. Totally up to you. The flow filter. Naturally, if anyone hits any of these conditions, they will be removed from the segment, which will actually remove them from the flow, but I like to have these just as a precaution. Opens email or clicks email or places order 0 times since starting this flow, as that demonstrates engagement, okay? So, email 1. This flow is designed to clean your list, right? But it tanks deliverability in doing so because it encourages people to unsubscribe and mark your emails as spam just to get off the list, right? Because this email is going to be talking to people who actually may have not been talked to in a while because you would only be sending campaigns or flows to your engaged segment of people, and therefore they wouldn't be receiving those regular campaigns. So this might actually be the first time that they've heard from you in quite a while, which will jog people's memories, be like, oh yeah, I no longer want to hear from them, I'm going to unsubscribe. Now, rule of thumb for these emails, before we go into the details of these, you want them to be plain text, so no creative, right? So in Klaviyo, you can have a HTML-based email and a plain text email. You can see it in the editor when you're designing these emails. Plain text get better cut through when it comes to email marketing. They get better engagement. They land in people's primary folders because service providers like Gmail, Outlook, and Hotmail see those emails and they see them as a human-to-human interaction because they don't have any of the hallmark signs of being a promotional campaign because they have no images, they have no alt text. It's all just a text-based email like you and I would write to each other, right? So that's what you want these emails to look like, plain text emails. Now, in the first email, you are going to want to ask people if they want to keep receiving your emails. Odds are a lot of them are going to unsubscribe, but here's how you trick the system, right? Have a link in that email that says something along the lines of click here to unsubscribe. Give people a super easy option to unsubscribe. Now, instead of that link automatically unsubscribing the reader, little typo there, instead of that link automatically unsubscribing the reader, have it update their profile property with a tag instead, and then have that link take the reader to a separate page on your website that notifies them that they have unsubscribed. This link will be a redirect link that updates their profile property. You can do this in Klaviyo. It's super, super useful. And what that does, right, is it'll then update their profile property and then take them to a page that notifies them that they've unsubscribed. It'll be like a generic unsubscribe page. Then you want to create a segment of people with that tag. So that tag will be something like has unsubscribed equals yes, or rather profile property equals unsubscribed yes, right? So the profile property would be unsubscribed, the tag would be yes. Hope that makes sense. Now create a segment of people with that tag and exclude them from all campaigns and flows. So anybody who has the tag, that custom tag, they should be excluded from flows and campaigns. Add flow filters across all your flows, add exclusion segments to all your campaigns, and ensure that they do not get any more campaigns or any more flows because they have unsubscribed, right? Every month, suppress that segment of people. You'll find as time goes on, that segment will grow. Just make sure you suppress them, and absolutely make sure you have those flow filters and you exclude them from campaigns. You do not want these people getting any more emails from you because they have actually, in their minds, unsubscribed, but from a systems perspective, they have not. Now, that email that was negatively affecting your deliverability is now doing the same thing it was before, but improving deliverability, right? Because when people go to unsubscribe and they click, it is no longer registering in Gmail or Outlook or Hotmail as an unsubscribe. It's registering as a click, which is a positive engagement metric. The unsubscribe is no longer happening, which is a negative engagement metric. So you've flipped it on its head. You've taken a negative action, turned it into a positive from a back-end perspective, and now you're actually improving your overall deliverability, which is going to improve your click rates and open rates. I'm not a huge fan of going by open rates in general, but it's going to improve your open rates across your account. Email 1B and C, these emails are literally reiterating what was said in 1A, but they're just going to people who haven't opened, right? Because this filter here is not going to exclude people. It's going to exclude people if they've opened the email, right? And clicked it, right? So that means they're therefore engaged again. But the only people who are getting excluded from campaigns and technically being unsubscribed are one that click and have that profile property updating them. Make sure in these emails you are still updating people's profile properties in the same manner that you're updating them here in email 1A. Make sure these emails are in plain text. You want good cut through. Now, I like to have a 2-day delay here, up to you. I mean, I found 2 to 3 days is actually quite good. There's an argument to be made for just getting rid of email 1C and just having it a 2-part flow, and that's really up to you and how your database interacts with this automation. The decision-making process there is if no one engages with 1C anyway, get rid of it because it's just a negative engagement email. But if you're still getting like 10% open rates from 1C, keep it in there, right? After a 2-day delay, at the very end of the flow, if they're still in the flow, we have an update profile property with suppress equals yes. Now we're assuming this is the exact same tag that you're using for this email here. So, a few things. First off, we add a 2-day delay because we want people to have the opportunity to engage with this email before we suppress them, right? That 2-day delay gives them an opportunity to do that. If they reach this, it's going to update their profile property, and it means they haven't engaged with any of the emails above, because if they reach this step, it means none of the flow filters have taken effect, which means they haven't opened anything, which means we can safely assume they are ready to be suppressed. So this tag will then add them to the same segment of people that we created over here that demonstrates that they wanted to unsubscribe. Remember, they click the link, it takes them to a dedicated page, we update their profile property. This wants to feed people into that exact same segment. And that is the sunset flow. Any questions, let me know. I've actually given you the segment here as well. This is the segment of people you want to classify as suppressed. It'll be anybody who has the suppression tag, which will be given to them by either going through the entire flow or by clicking the link in the above email. I recommend suppressing that segment. Here's how you define it right there. Properties about somebody, tag contains suppress, right? Or just say equals suppress, right? Boom. There are a bunch more automations like these that I've created. If you want access to every single one, all you have to do is click this box and it'll take you to a payment gateway. It's $7 for every single one of the automations that I've ever built. And I add emails and sequences to these this board, all the time. I've also got a outline of every single software that I use for email marketing. Super useful. It's $7. It's going to be the best $7 that you've ever spent. Very in-depth outlines for every single automation that I recommend your e-commerce store has, whether that be abandoned carts, abandoned checkouts, Google review flows, fulfilled order flows, the win-back flow, of course the sunset flow that we just went through, the site abandoned flow, everything. It's all there. Any questions? Let me know. Let me know what you think of that board. If you found this useful, give me a subscribe. Cool, guys. Enjoy your email marketing journey. Bye.